I appreciate the opportunity to be here. At the Mesquite Police Department, we feel like anything that can bring awareness to the domestic violence and the seriousness of it is something great, because anything that will stop that cycle is very important to us and all those that have spoken today. On that point, I'm not going to be as long-winded as the attorneys president. I'll be brief. I want to briefly let you guys know kind of the perspective of the police department, as far as law enforcement gets involved in domestic violence, from basically the beginning call to where it goes to the prosecutor and to the court with Judge Toome. As been discussed, domestic violence happens in Mesquite. We have a great community, but it happens in all communities. And Judge Toome talked a little bit about the statistics, and I brought our own statistic because they're a little bit different than the actual arrests that are made. We have to look at how many times are we called and we don't make an arrest. There's not enough probable cause in order for us to make an arrest. And to briefly go over that, in 2011 we had 250 calls, domestic violence related calls, where someone called the police department saying either a neighbor or friend, or whether it's the victim themselves calling and informing us of a situation that's occurring, whether it occurred in the recent hours or whether it was actively occurring. So we had 250 of those in 2011, and 83 of those resulted in arrest, where someone was taken to jail for the act of domestic violence. In 2012 we had 237, which was down 13 from 2011, and we had 74 arrests. 2013 we noticed a large decrease. We had 186 calls of service for domestic violence and 67 arrests. 2014, as of yesterday, we had 19 calls and 3 arrests. So, not including 2014 stats, we can see there has been a decline, and we feel like the decline is not because something the police department is necessarily doing. It's something that we're all doing together as a community to bring awareness to the situation, to provide an outlet for those victims to stop this cycle of domestic violence. So again, I applaud you for your efforts and all those involved that help bring those statistics down. That's a good sign for us. As I discussed, we receive a call. The police department officers will respond. We always send 2 cars or 2 officers to each domestic violence call due to the possibility of the violence in nature. So many different things occur during a domestic violence situation. Tempers are heated. There's a lot going on, and usually there's alcohol or drugs that pushes the domestic violence. Once officers arrive, their main goal initially is to secure the scene, make sure everyone there is safe, whether it's the children, the parties involved in the domestic situation. We secure the scene and separate the parties to not allow for any intimidation or anything like that. What I mean by separating, if there's a male and female involved, one officer will take the male and go in another room and take the female into a different room so that they can't hear what that person is telling the officer, and also so there's no intimidation involved. Being on these scenes myself for the past 10 years, if we ever don't separate them, it's amazing to see how scared or worried that victim is to discuss anything with us in front of them because of the daggers that the suspect has given the victim. Don't say anything kind of deal. So we definitely separate them, and then once we speak with them, our main goal is to determine if there is probable cause, if there's enough elements that meet the crime in order to make an arrest. Some things that we'll look at is obviously the statements of both parties involved. We'll look at the statements by witnesses, the person that complained, that called in, children in the home, anyone involved. We'll speak with them, see if we can get corroborating statements in order to determine what actually happened. And also there's the evidence that's involved. If there's a broken chair, or if there's marks of abuse or anything like that, that helps us determine if there was probable cause for it to once we find probable cause, as Attorney Sweeten said, we do everything we can to help the prosecution of the offender, and in order to do that, we need to get those statements from the victim. A lot of times, as stated, they will change their story in a month from now, and that's not really what happened, because they're back with the offender. They don't want to get them in trouble. So it's important for us to make sure they write down what occurred, and to get witnesses to write down what occurred, and to really get them stuck in one story. And then once that all occurred, we obviously the offender is taken to jail, and we're able to speak more with the victim and really talk to them about ways for them to end this vicious cycle. And one thing the state's done is officers are mandated to provide the victims of domestic violence some information that says information regarding domestic violence for victims. And on these cards it talks about the arrest. It says, if I have probable cause that domestic violence has been committed against you in the last 24 hours, I'm required to immediately arrest a person suspected of committing the domestic act unless mitigating circumstances exist to not arrest the suspect. If I am unable to arrest a suspect having committed domestic violence, a domestic violence crime report will be completed, which may then be referred to the appropriate agency for prosecution. If convicted, the person having committed the crime may be jailed, placed on probation, or ordered to attend counseling. It is a federal crime to possess a firearm while subject to qualifying protection order or after conviction of a qualifying misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. It goes in and it talks about the protection order. It talks about how they can receive a protection order, how they can receive an emergency protection order. It talks about custody, extended orders, and gives a whole list of numbers they can call, including Clark County Detention Center, Las Vegas Jail, and a 24-hour hotline. Our main goal is to go over this card with the victim and assure that they understand exactly their rights and understand what they can do to end this cycle. One thing is, they have a lot of questions, and we don't simply give them this card and say good luck. We do all we can in order to help them understand how they can end this cycle. Once we leave the scene and give them this card, I briefly want to mention one more thing. The Mesquite, so this is mandated through the state that we provide them with this information. We have the blue ones are in English and the pink ones are in Spanish. When Judge Toon was the city attorney or the prosecutor, he assisted the police department in putting together something above and beyond that, something that has a lot more information on for victims, and it's basically a three-part pamphlet with more information, information specifically for the court. So he did a wonderful job for us, and we now, with the Mesquite Police Department, will hand out this pamphlet, which has a lot more information than just that little blue card.